Into the abyss. Before we dive in, hit that subscribe button, smash the like, and comment if you dare, because what you're about to witness isn't just a story. It's a nightmare beneath the waves, and once you see it, you'll never look at the ocean the same way again. The fog rolled in thick over the coastal town of Seaview, smothering the faint glow of streetlights and swallowing the familiar outlines of buildings, docks, and fishing boats. It was 2:36 a.m., and the town's silence was shattered by a frantic radio call from the Marine Research Facility. Unit 7, we've got a 10-54 break-in at the Dolphin Research Lab. Possible human casualty. Send backup immediately. Officer Lane's cruiser skidded over wet asphalt as he raced toward the facility. The building loomed like a concrete fortress against the stormy night. Windows rattled, lights flickered, and inside, chaos awaited. As he stepped into the main hall, the metallic scent of saltwater mixed with something coppery, blood. The largest dolphin tank, housing Titan, a male dolphin used for research and training, was shattered. Water sloshed across the tiles as Titan thrashed violently, his eyes wide with fear, almost human in their panic. Detective Marlowe arrived moments later, assessing the scene with practiced eyes. The lab was a ruin, overturned tables, scattered equipment, chemical vials shattered on the floor. In the midst of the mess lay a body, Dr. Clara Voss, a brilliant marine biologist and whistleblower, known for exposing unethical research practices. Her lifeless form bore a single stab wound in the chest, clean and deliberate. Whoever had done this had a plan, and Marlowe instinctively knew it had nothing to do with chance. The investigation began immediately. Marlowe and Lane cordoned off the facility, questioning the remaining staff. Most claimed ignorance, their eyes betraying fear and uncertainty. But a maintenance worker, old and wiry, muttered something that caught Marlowe's attention. "I heard the screams, but I didn't see anyone. The water, it moved like it had a mind of its own." Inside Clara's office, Marlowe discovered scattered notebooks and papers, soaked from the tank water but mostly intact. Among them were details of a classified project called Dolphin Prison, a top-secret experiment rumored to manipulate dolphin behavior for private and military purposes. Notes suggested that dolphins were being trained to perform complex tasks under extreme duress, potentially weaponized for unknown operations. Clara had documented every irregularity, every hidden shipment, and every suspicious contact linked to the program. One document, partially torn, listed names: Ryder, Michaels, Crawford. Next to each name, cryptic annotations hinted at involvement in illegal activity and possibly violent enforcement. Marlowe's stomach twisted. Clara had gotten too close to the truth. She hadn't just stumbled onto unethical science, she had uncovered a network of people who would kill to protect their secrets. Outside, Lane examined the perimeter. Surveillance cameras had been tampered with, some removed entirely, others looping pre-recorded footage. Whoever had orchestrated this knew the facility intimately. But there were faint traces, footprints in the mud near the dock and a smear of blood leading to a back storage shed. It was a breadcrumb trail, subtle but intentional, like the perpetrator wanted someone to follow. Inside the shed, Marlowe found something that made her blood run cold, a black folder labeled Project Echo. Inside, videos and documents detailed the cruel training of dolphins, showing the animals responding to stimuli designed to instill fear and obedience. One video captured Titan striking against the glass repeatedly, eyes wide and panicked, a metal device strapped to his dorsal fin emitting faint red pulses. It was a machine capable of controlling the dolphin's behavior, and possibly, its aggression. But the most shocking discovery came next. Tucked beneath the folder was a small envelope with a single message in Clara's handwriting: "Trust no one. They are everywhere. They know you're watching." The words were chilling, a warning left by someone who had known the consequences of exposure all too well. Marlowe's eyes scanned the room and caught movement at the edge of the dock outside the shed. A shadow slipped between crates and disappeared into the fog. Heart pounding, she realized the danger was far from over. Whoever had killed Clara and orchestrated Dolphin Prison was still active, and now they knew the investigators were closing in. She looked back at the tanks, water lapping over the edges where Titan had been held. The dolphins were more than victims, they were witnesses, tools, and possibly weapons in someone's hands. And the ledger, the videos, the cryptic notes, all pointed to a single terrifying truth: this was not a simple crime. It was an organized operation, one that had quietly been running in the shadows for years, and its reach was far beyond Seaview. As Marlowe prepared to leave the facility, a final detail froze her in place: a photograph partially hidden under a wet file folder. It showed Titan, but there was a faint outline in the background, a man in a dark coat holding a device, his face obscured. The handwriting on the back read, "Phase 2 begins soon." The detective swallowed hard, the weight of the discovery pressing down. The stakes were higher than ever. Not only had Clara Voss been silenced, but Dolphin Prison was far from over. Someone powerful, someone patient, was orchestrating this. And the first chapter of the nightmare had only just begun. Marlowe stepped back into the foggy night, the sound of the waves mingling with her racing heartbeat. Whoever had done this wasn't finished, and she knew, with chilling clarity, that the deeper she dug, the more dangerous it would become. Shadows in the deep. Detective Marlowe hadn't slept in 48 hours. The image of Titan's terrified eyes, combined with Clara Voss's lifeless body, haunted every thought. The ledger, the videos, the cryptic note, it all pointed to a network of people more dangerous than she could have imagined. And now, every move she made felt like walking into a predator's lair. The next morning, federal agents arrived at the Seaview docks. Marlowe briefed them quickly, laying out the details of Dolphin Prison and the hidden network she had uncovered. They examined the facility, now partially cordoned off, and found signs of hurried removal. Crates missing, evidence tampered with, and several dolphins unaccounted for. Whoever had orchestrated this knew how to cover tracks with surgical precision. Marlowe studied Clara's notes again, focusing on the names: Ryder, Michaels, Crawford. Each appeared connected to shadowy contractors, offshore accounts, and a web of influence that stretched across borders. Ryder, she realized, wasn't just a scientist. He was the architect, the puppeteer controlling both dolphins and men in equal measure. Her stomach tightened. If Ryder was smart, he had planned every angle, predicting investigators' steps days in advance. That night, Marlowe returned to the docks alone. The fog had returned, curling around the crates and abandoned equipment. She followed a faint trail of water and mud toward a storage container partially hidden behind a warehouse. Inside, she discovered Titan and two younger dolphins, restrained with harnesses. Their eyes were wide, pleading, and terrified. On the floor, a note scrawled in a trembling hand read, "Release will cost lives." The revelation struck her like a punch. Dolphin Prison wasn't just unethical experimentation. It was a calculated attempt to create a weapon. These dolphins had been trained, conditioned, and manipulated for purposes no one outside the facility could imagine. And someone was willing to kill to keep it secret. Meanwhile, Officer Lane traced shipping records from Clara's documents. Multiple shipments of dolphins and equipment had been logged over months, moving between private research labs, military contractors, and offshore facilities. Every trail led back to Ryder. But there were gaps, erasures, altered documents, untraceable transfers. Ryder was meticulous, a ghost hiding in plain sight, and now Marlowe realized he was actively monitoring their investigation. Then came the first warning. Lane returned home to find his apartment door ajar. Papers were missing, his computer stolen, but a single envelope remained on the kitchen table. Inside was a photograph of him leaving the station the night before, circled in red ink. On the back, 3 words, "Next time, you disappear." Fear rippled through the department. Whoever controlled Dolphin Prison wasn't just ruthless, they were watching, waiting, anticipating every move. Marlowe decided to confront Ryder directly. She tracked a lead to an abandoned cliffside lab referenced in Clara's notes, accessible only by a narrow, treacherous path over the rocks. The wind whipped at her face as she approached, waves crashing violently below. The building was silent, almost too quiet, its doors hanging open. Inside, she found a row of tanks, each holding dolphins with strange electronic devices affixed to their dorsal fins. The room smelled of saltwater, disinfectant, and something metallic, fear. And then she saw him, Ryder, standing calmly among the tanks, a smug expression on his face. "Detective Marlowe," he said, voice smooth, almost conversational. I wondered how long it would take for you to find us. You've been using dolphins as weapons, Marlowe said, her voice steady despite the tension. You killed Clara Voss to keep this secret. Why? Ryder smiled faintly. Because the world isn't ready. These animals, they can do more than humans ever imagined. And there are people willing to pay millions to control them. Before Marlowe could respond, one of the younger dolphins freed itself from a loose harness, leaping toward the control panel. Alarms blared as tanks cracked and water surged across the floors. Chaos erupted as the trained creatures, conditioned for obedience, began to act unpredictably. Ryder cursed, rushing to regain control, but Marlowe realized the animals themselves had become agents of disruption, turning the experiment back on its creator. Amid the chaos, Marlowe found a crate filled with Clara's recordings, evidence she had never seen before. In them, Clara detailed the extent of Ryder's operation, how he had trained the dolphins for covert military operations, tracking, and sabotage. Each recording added another layer of horror, revealing just how calculated and remorseless Ryder truly was. Suddenly, a shadow appeared at the far edge of the lab. Ryder moved toward it, unaware that Marlowe had already grabbed the ledger and was retreating toward the cliffside exit. Water poured across the tiles, making each step treacherous. Behind her, the sound of heavy footsteps followed. Someone, or something, was pursuing her. As she reached the cliffside, the first rays of dawn pierced the fog, illuminating the chaos she had escaped. Tanks were cracked, water flooded the lower floors, and the dolphins had vanished into the ocean. Ryder had disappeared too, leaving only the devastation and the evidence she now carried. Marlowe's heart pounded as she handed the ledger and recordings to federal authorities. They would investigate, pursue Ryder, and hopefully dismantle the network. But she knew better. Whoever orchestrated Dolphin Prison had planned for contingencies that might extend beyond borders, into Europe, into other Western nations. The conspiracy was far from over. And then, a message arrived at her office, unmarked, with only a photograph inside. Titan leaping from the waves, his dorsal fin fitted with a small device. On the back, in red scrawled handwriting, "We're still watching." Marlowe stared at the photo, understanding at last the full scope. The dolphins were more than animals, they were witnesses, weapons, and warnings. And those who had controlled them were still out there, patient and unseen, waiting for the right moment to strike again. Into the abyss of truth. Detective Marlowe's world had narrowed to a single purpose: find Ryder, stop Dolphin Prison, and uncover the full scope of the conspiracy before more lives were lost. Every lead pointed to one terrifying truth: Ryder was no ordinary criminal. He was meticulous, patient, and willing to cross any moral line, human or animal, to protect his secrets. And now, after the chaos at the cliffside facility, she knew the danger had grown personal. Weeks of investigation revealed that Ryder had vanished without a trace. No bank transactions, no flight records, no verified sightings. Yet Marlowe couldn't shake the feeling that he was always one step ahead, anticipating her every move. Then came a tip from an unexpected source. A former lab technician, hiding in fear, claimed Ryder had a private offshore island where the most sensitive operations took place. The name of the island was classified, but the technician had mapped every movement, every shipment, and every dolphin relocated under Ryder's watch. Marlowe arranged a covert operation. Under cover of night, she and a small federal team approached the island by boat. Waves crashed violently against the hull, the wind screaming like a warning. As they neared the shore, spotlights illuminated a complex of buildings surrounded by high walls and reinforced fencing. The air smelled of salt, chemicals, and something metallic, fear itself. Inside, the facility was a mechanical labyrinth. Tanks lined the hallways, each one housing dolphins equipped with electronic devices on their dorsal fins. Monitors displayed real-time data tracking the animals' movements, physiological responses, and behavioral patterns. Marlowe's stomach churned. Ryder hadn't just been experimenting, he had been perfecting control. The dolphins were trained like operatives, and the implications were horrifying. Then she saw him. Ryder stood at the control room, flanked by two guards, observing the monitors. His expression was calm, almost serene, as if orchestrating an orchestra of terror. "Detective Marlowe," he said, voice cold, yet almost admiring. "I knew you wouldn't stop. Curiosity has always been your weakness. You've tortured animals, murdered to hide the truth, and threatened countless lives," she replied, voice steady despite the rage building inside her. "It ends tonight." Ryder's smile widened. "Ends? No, this is only the beginning. These creatures, they are more than witnesses. They are the proof of power. And you've walked right into my final experiment." Chaos erupted. Alarms blared as the dolphins, sensing the tension and confusion, reacted unpredictably. Some smashed against tanks, others triggered emergency systems, flooding corridors and short-circuiting electrical panels. Marlowe realized the very tools Ryder had created were turning against him. Water gushed through hallways, creating a hazardous maze of shifting floors and broken glass. In the midst of the chaos, Marlowe fought her way to the control room. She ripped open panels, cutting power to Ryder's devices. The dolphins, no longer restrained, leapt and swam freely in the flooding tanks. One massive dolphin, Titan, surged through a broken barrier, almost as if acknowledging Marlowe's presence and defiance. Ryder's calm demeanor shattered into panic as he attempted to regain control. But the final twist came from an unexpected angle. Marlowe discovered hidden documents inside the control room detailing Ryder's collaboration with high-ranking officials across multiple countries. Plans to deploy dolphins for covert operations, sabotage, and intelligence gathering. The conspiracy extended far beyond Seaview, with implications reaching Europe and other Western nations. The full scope was staggering. Dolphin Prison was not a local crime, it was an international operation. Ryder, realizing the operation was collapsing, tried to flee. Marlowe pursued him through the flooded corridors. They emerged onto a cliffside platform as the storm raged above, waves crashing violently. Ryder lunged toward a waiting boat, but Marlowe intercepted him. In a tense confrontation, he attempted to strike her, but she fought back, leveraging his momentum against him. With a final push, he stumbled, disappearing into the violent surf below. Whether he survived or not, no one could say. The dolphins, now free, swam into the open sea, their cries echoing like a requiem. The evidence Marlowe recovered, documents, recordings, and the ledger, was handed to federal authorities, ensuring Ryder's plans could not continue unchecked. Yet, the investigation revealed something chilling. The network behind Dolphin Prison was larger than any one man. Names, accounts, and communications pointed to shadowy operatives who had managed to operate under the radar for years. Weeks later, as Marlowe sat at her desk, she received an envelope with no return address. Inside was a photograph. Titan leaping from the ocean, his dorsal fin fitted with a small, blinking device. On the back, a single scrawled message read, "We are everywhere. Watch the water." Marlowe exhaled slowly. The case was technically over, Ryder was gone, or at least out of reach, but the haunting truth remained. Dolphin Prison had created not just victims, but witnesses who had been forced into roles beyond their understanding, and human operatives who would continue the work if left unchecked. She realized that some nightmares never truly end, they just wait beneath the surface. And as the sun rose over Seaview, glinting off the waves, Marlowe understood one final terrifying fact. Those who believed they could control nature and control the truth had underestimated both. The dolphins had been prisoners, but in a way, so had the people who thought they were masters of the ocean. They thought the prisoners were the dolphins. But the real prisoners were the people who believed they could control them. And for Detective Marlowe, the nightmare had only just begun. If you think this story was intense, you're not ready for the next one. Hit subscribe so you don't miss it.